What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Games Up Podcast. My name is Cameron McCullough-Keeble, and I'm joined by Lewis Crawford.
Hello there.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. Louder than normal.
I was going to say, fucking hell. And we turn that down. Excellent. So what's made you so good and so loud?
A nice weekend. Just relaxing.
Oh, it's lovely.
After a busy week.
Have you done anything with the weekend or just let it pass?
In terms of productivity?
In terms of literally anything other than breathing.
So we played about 8 hours of Danganronpa.
Nice. Nice.
Completed that now.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 74 of Games Up Podcast. As I said, my name is Cameron, and I'm joined by Lewis, and we're going to start right away, as we do every week, with the news. And the news starts off with some fantastic news this week. The first piece of news is a massive congratulations to Rooster Teeth, whose Extra Life livestream this weekend raised $1.2 million for Children's Miracle Network hospitals, making them the first team ever to cross the $1 million threshold for Extra Life. Just so fucking cool.
Yeah. And it couldn't go to a more deserving bunch of people.
Oh God, absolutely, absolutely. They had like a little video break every kind of hour of the stuff they've done for this hospital, this one hospital in particular, and it's just amazing. Like, gaming can often be quite a salty, quite a loud community, and I love talking to it, and I love being a part of that discussion, but I love so much more communities like this where there's such a massive positive thing behind it. So just awesome fucking work.
Yeah, very well done.
Absolutely. And if you haven't looked at it, they're keeping the raffle and stuff open that they raised the money with, and all the store and stuff open for the next week and a half. So go give them more, because kids, right? Because kids. Second piece of news this week is that EA has bought Respawn, the developer of Titanfall, amongst other things.
No.
You say no. Why do you say this?
Oh, I don't know. EA has a long list of studios that have died or been killed off, so
yeah,
you have to always be a little bit worried.
I mean, frankly, this isn't too surprising with their recent work, like with Titanfall and then the Star Wars project, and I think it was either always going to be EA or Microsoft.
Yeah, that is fair to say. But I think it's kind of weird because Respawn was made, I'm pretty sure, because the people who made Respawn were sick of the big world of gaming. They didn't want to have the big kind of big corporate presence and marketing teams leading the whole thing. So it's kind of a backwards move, I guess, from what they kind of went away from. Because the whole thing is it was made of ex-Call of Duty devs, right?
Yeah.
Who wanted to kind of have a little bit more freedom and not be under the hammer.
I mean, it depends on what kind of relationship they've got with EA. It might be, EA might be writing the style guides for them from now on, but it might also be that, as EA have published their last couple of things, it seems like they have a fairly good working relationship anyway, so maybe that's not going to change too much. There's just going to be more stability.
Yeah, we can hope. Because, I want to see Titanfall really hit the mark, I guess.
Yeah, and
I'd love to see another Titanfall that really does it well.
They did confirm with this news that another Titanfall is in development.
Oh, very nice.
What it looks like, I don't know, because, Titanfall, I think, could work as a bunch of things. I think it could make a pretty good RTS.
Yeah, that's true.
It could work as a bunch of stuff, and they tried it for mobile, but I think it could work for mobile as well. You're considerably more quiet on that one.
Yeah. Not so much on the mobile games, but yeah, I think Titanfall is one of those things that if they looked after it well, then yeah, you could kind of see it breaching all the gaps and doing all the genres, and we could see a Titanfall RPG, or
Well, yeah, the way they developed from multiplayer only to a really good story last year, you could see them doing more, and I love Titanfall. I didn't get into Titanfall 2, but I love the first one. I'd like to see Microsoft support it a bit more, because I mean, you need to support something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this could be a good thing if EA do well with it.
Yeah, no, I guess that's true. And I guess it means at least it's safe.
For now, certainly. Piece of news number 3, Lewis, you're going to be happy with this one, is IO Interactive have confirmed that a new Hitman game is in development. This is an incredibly positive piece of news considering the year that IO has had.
Yeah, and we thought that Hitman might have been kind of dead for a bit. So it's very good to hear. I'm interested to see if it's season 2 of Hitman or if it's a new Hitman game.
Yes, the discussion online seems to be that it's probably season 2, as they've had so much success with season 1.
Yeah.
And generally the response, while the response was questionable at first, people seem to be fairly into Hitman and how it's moved the franchise forward. So I guess a continuation of that isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. Now, I'm always interested in seeing there's going to be a funding difference. And it's kind of hard to say how that's going to affect the game. I mean, you can argue that they've already got this amazing engine, so making an extra season shouldn't be making an extra set of maps in that same engine shouldn't be too difficult. But who's to know? And I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. But I'm a little bit worried about the funding difference because obviously now it's not coming from a big publisher as far as we're aware, is it?
But then it could also depend on the actual release model of the game. So they did season 1 in stages before. Maybe they do a Telltale thing and you can buy each stage individually and that will start the funding of the next or help the funding of the next stage.
Yeah, that's true.
And also
true.
Frankly, I can see this having some exclusivity somewhere. I'm surprised that PlayStation haven't already moved towards this. Maybe there are discussions happening that we don't know of between PlayStation, Microsoft, maybe even Nintendo at this stage. So, I guess I could kind of see it being supported by some kind of third party in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that, actually. You're right.
And if that were to happen, whoever got it, as an exclusive, to say, not just having the exclusive of the game, but, the exclusive of the continuation of the game. That's a thing we haven't seen before, so that could be quite a novel move.
Yeah. I'm not sure who would do it though. I mean, it's kind of like the Tomb Raider thing. You're going to annoy fans for a bit, and obviously,
I think of the two, I could see PlayStation getting behind it more, purely because PlayStation have over the last few years especially, they have a pretty shitty history with exclusive DLC.
Yeah.
And I think people would consider this, because it's not the whole game, it's the next stage of it. I think people would consider this more in line with DLC than with an exclusive game. So I could see PlayStation A having more money to throw at it and more kudos to throw at it, and be willing to push the boat out a little bit with what they get from it.
Okay.
Piece of news number 4 is that Take-Two has said they do not intend to release games that allow players to make a single purchase, i.e. they don't see games as a hobby, they see games as a service, i.e. ways to buy microtransactions, loot boxes, all this kind of jazz. This came out in an earnings call this week, in which they also explained that they are expecting a new installment of a major 2K franchise in 2018. 2 fairly big chunks of news to discuss there. I mean, I don't think anyone is surprised that big gaming company wants to make money, but it's kind of a shame that they're being so brash about it.
Yeah, and you just have to worry about what it means. There's been a lot of talk about microtransactions being a larger and larger element, and you have to worry when every game coming out has this huge element to it potentially.
You do. I think the biggest worry I have about it is that it seems short-sighted. I don't think microtransactions are going to be the next decade of gaming. I think they'll be here, and I think they'll be an evil we deal with, but I don't think they'll be, never-ending. And I don't think Halo 6 is going to be more microtransaction than game, right? I think games will always resemble games in some form. And I think the worry I have is that a company with so many big brands and so many big names under their umbrella going after microtransactions so heavily is the kind of short-term thinking that we've seen led to the downfall of companies like Nintendo, where they went after motion control so hard. If this does turn out to be a gimmick, even on the developer's side, it's a very, very, very rushed way to go after it. And we've seen people like THQ die for such brash moves before. This seems kind of dumb.
Yeah. So like, there's two bits of news from this, because the thing is, on the side of it, potentially the game you're looking forward to most has been announced, soft announced, let's say.
Yeah.
Because there's only, I guess you've got BioShock, Borderlands, and considering it was released at the same time as this big talk on microtransactions, it would be more fitting into Borderlands. So we can argue that Borderlands 3 is on the way, but I do worry. Especially if we have the element where it starts becoming like, if you're paying, maybe you get extra loot. Maybe you're like, because they had the gold chest in Borderlands 2, didn't they?
Yeah, they had a microtransaction in Borderlands 2.
Like, and they did have all of the costumes and stuff. I don't know. I worry that it's going to be more, or maybe like you need those a little bit more. Like, I'm happy for there to be a Borderlands 3, but I'm also a bit worried about the whole, especially that they've announced that they're doing loads of it, like microtransaction stuff.
It wasn't so much announced as like, so the way earnings calls work for games companies is members of the press usually manage to get their way in. Sometimes they're invited in, sometimes they get their way in other ways. And they ask questions of the companies about how they see gaming in the future and then report on them. So like, Warner Brothers do an investment call every two times a year, I think. And games press companies will use that as a way to go, when's the next Batman game? Or something like that. And Warner Brothers will respond in part with a PR answer that's like, oh, we see a major installment in a franchise in the next... But then press sites will report on that and say, next Batman game coming in 6 months, and it's kind of a vicious cycle in that sense. So they didn't, like, announce this. They didn't, like, come out on Facebook and be like, we're going to charge the fuck out of you. But they also did it with enough transparency to their investors that you can pretty much count on it.
Yeah. So on a side bit of news for this, obviously, is Red Dead Redemption 2 has also been announced to have microtransactions.
It has, yeah. Surprising, first of all, that we haven't seen them announce Red Dead Online, but they have announced that it's having microtransactions.
Yeah, I mean, we can be pretty positive that this is Red Dead Online.
Yeah.
And I just hope it's not a continuation of the whole DLC is now multiplayer DLC and free, as opposed to like extra single player stuff. Because obviously there's the controversy around GTA 5 and GTA Online, how it was meant to have single player DLC and it never came about because they found out that they could print money.
Yeah. I mean, like, from what we could get, it seems like there was a slightly deeper story there in which a part of Rockstar Games got restructured and they were supposed to be working on the single player DLC, but they had to instead put support onto online, and they just never got back to putting the support in the single player.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like, at the end of the day, GTA 5 is like a full game, and so I kind of feel bad bagging on it, because like, yeah, you can get, GTA Online is now a big you pay everything world, but like, you can still play GTA 5 for like 400 hours, so I don't feel like that's the worst offender.
Yeah. Yeah, very true, very true.
Personally, I think the bigger part of this is that without having announced Red Dead Online, we're only kind of assuming that this exists. We don't know how much of a shared world this is going to be. We've seen the trailers for Red Dead 2 show quite heavily like heists and interactive scenes and the kind of stuff that led GTA 5 forward. But if there is no separation, like, I don't want Red Dead 2 to be like The Crew or whatever. Or the fucking
Destiny?
No, the one in New York in the snow and everything's gone to hell. The Division.
The Division.
Yeah, I don't want Red Dead 2 to be The Division purely because, like, there's a story to be told there, I think. And I think The Division doesn't tell a story as well as it tells a game, which are two very different things.
Yeah.
And I think GTA 5 does an amazing job of telling a story, and like, its multiplayer microtransaction-y shit is relevant enough regardless of, like, as a separate thing, that I'm happy to play both. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see. Yeah. So I guess the ultimate worry is that we have drop in, drop out multiplayer where some guy appears in your game with a golden cowboy hat.
Yeah, like drop in, drop out single player, I think is the worrying idea.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, oh god, that seems like it's the way they're going with Far Cry 5 and yuck. Anyway. As you said, the leading the charge for this new installment in a major 2K franchise could be a couple of things. I guess it could be Mafia, probably not though. It could be Skate, maybe, probably not though. The chances are it's BioShock or Borderlands, and there may be some evidence to suggest it's Borderlands even more so, because on the flip side this week, Randy Pitchford, who's the head of Gearbox, spoken out about loot boxes and suggests that game studios need to be careful about turning games from a hobby into games into a service. So there's two ways to look at this. Firstly, 2K mentioned that it was specifically Take-Two mentioned specifically that it was a 2K franchise. Borderlands has been published by 2K, but it's not really thought of as 2K. It's thought of as a Gearbox franchise, so that may hint more towards BioShock. But Pitchford coming out, and we know Borderlands 3 is in development. Like, they have soft announced it. They've shown the tech they're working on. They've shown tech demos for it. Like, the history of this game is well charted at this point. The game is coming out probably in the next year, or like year and a half. But the fact that he felt the need to follow this investor's call with a tweet about how developers need to be careful maybe suggests he's hearing some backlash from it. Also maybe suggests Borderlands 3 won't be as fucked as we think it is. Because...
we can hope.
Yeah, like, I think, personally, Borderlands 2 saw so much growth from Borderlands 1. Like, it was night and day, the success of those games. And I don't think Randy Pitchford is a stupid man. I think he's done some stupid things. Alien Colonial Marines being the main one. I think he's done some really dumb things. But I don't think he's a dumb businessman. And I think he knows that there's a player base there that he has to keep on the right side. So obviously there's going to be loot boxes of some form, even if it's just the same golden chest mechanic there was before. Like, ironically, Borderlands 2 kind of introduced that shit. But I don't... Maybe this is a sign that it's not going to be like the Overwatch grind, right?
Yeah.
We can but hope.
Yeah, we can hope.
Two more pieces of news to go with us this week. This week in various discussions, Ubisoft have talked about the potential for next-gen consoles and said that they expect that we are at least 2 years away from a PS5 and an Xbox One 2, or whatever they call it.
No, I'm going to hold out for the Xbox One X, 2X.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is... not too surprising. I mean, we're only 4 years into the generation, I think.
Yeah, frankly, I'm surprised that we're talking about generations still. Like, I kind of thought...
I'm not.
Really?
Yeah, because... So, the thing is that the generation gap is always massive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, people are realizing, the Xbox One X released this week, which, yeah, people are realizing that it is actually quite a big step up, is what I'm hearing from most people, at least in terms of 4K. And I think, like, that'll be the next thing, that'll be the night and day. Because when we look at, like, PS2 to PS3, PS3 to PS4, although PS3 to PS4 is less, it's still, like, a massive generational gap, right?
Mm.
And I think the problem is we'll end up at a point soon where there'll be, let's say that PS5 comes out, but Xbox keeps the whole like forwards compatible, backwards compatible thing, then it'll be like making a PS4 game on a PS3. Or it'll be too big a gap, I guess. I don't know if that's quite true, but like it could be, you know.
The retort I have for you is that I feel like the Xbox One X, and again, I'm not like I'm nowhere near qualified in any kind of mechanics or electronic engineering or any of this bullshit. I barely know how to build a PC. My poor laptop that we edit this show on is like begging for death. And generally I'm unintelligent in any of this. But I feel like the Xbox One X is at that point. Like I feel like it's the point that a next gen console could be, because it's like it's fairly advanced technology for what it is. It's got fairly good power in it, and it's pushing games fairly well. But it's also at the price point that like it's not absurd.
Yeah.
Like a PS5 is going to be that 2 years down the line, and I kind of wonder, like, if they're 4 years away, I can see this being a generation, but I don't know that these companies are going to wait 4 years, because there seems to be a bit of a war of escalation at this point.
Yeah, but I guess it depends what gaming looks like in the next 4 years, you know. If, you know, the PS5 could be like please no, but an exclusively VR machine. Like, I don't want it to be. But I mean, like, you know, that would be a big enough step that you would look at the generations and go, this just wasn't possible on the Xbox One X, for example. So, I don't know. Like, I think you're right that the Xbox One X is pretty much where we are. It's not quite high-end PC, but it's close enough to make a little difference. Yeah, I guess it's a strange one. It is a strange one. It makes you wonder, like, you know, there's definitely going to be a PS5. Is there definitely going to be an Xbox 2?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and if it is it going to be like the same? Are they going to launch it at the same time the PS5 does? You know, in fact, I would argue that there is going to be, but only because of marketing purpose. You know, like ultimately, like the whole shebang of like releasing a console, the next generation of consoles specifically, is that it makes such a big marketing presence, makes such a big makes so many people interested in it that it pushes the next generation, the next load of sales.
Yeah.
You know, because like the PS4 Pro released and the Xbox One X released, and like we know that either way they're not going to suddenly change everything. And like Microsoft doesn't expect it to, and Sony don't expect it to. But when the Xbox 2 and the PS5 drops, that's everyone sells their Xbox One, sells their PS4, and buys the next console.
Yes, yeah.
And so they need that for marketing purposes. It does put into question, because if you look at like the words that Microsoft have already put out there about the forwards compatibility, and like, you know, you buy your Xbox now and you'll be able to just play it, play every game. It does put that into question, because I think they'll probably realize that marketing-wise it works a lot better, especially when in 2 years' time, if they don't have like an Xbox 2 and PS5 is there and it's like free, they get all the attention for it. If you get what I mean?
I know what you mean, that like this all goes in cycles, and to be a part of that cycle, you need that hardware there on day one. But the argument is that like Nintendo have just had the biggest PR push they've ever had, and it's been by going away from that cycle. So like, I don't know, maybe this is a war of escalation, and maybe the next one is just the Xbox One, like the iPad was the iPad to the iPad 2 or whatever.
Xbox Circle.
Yeah, like maybe it all just kind of doesn't mean anything, really.
I really want the next Xbox to be called... Actually, no, I'd accept the next Xbox just to be called Xbox.
I kind of think...
Because it's... Oh, God.
I kind of think that makes sense. Like, what the fuck else are they going to call it?
Because they have to continue the habit of just naming things, like, ridiculously.
Like, I'd have legitimately loved if they just called it the Xbox 720. That would have, like, PR-wise, it would have killed them because of all the resolution shit they had. But, like,
oh yeah,
I'd have been okay with that. I don't know. It's a weird one. I think Xbox probably makes sense, but we'll see, I guess. A bit of breaking news here, kind of breaking news anyway. In the last hour, the community manager for EA's Battlefront 2 has suggested that fans on the internet who are concerned about the game are not particularly qualified to do so, lashing out at them and calling them armchair developers.
Oh my god, really?
Yes. His exact tweet, and this has been deleted, and he's defending himself in various ways. We'll talk about that in a second. But the exact tweet is the armchair developers on this internet, which is
that's amazing.
It's beautifully eloquent. Regardless of what state the game is in, I think we're all worried about it. But regardless of the state the game is in, don't lash out at your consumers. That's just fucking dumb. Like.
Yeah.
Before any, like, okay, if people don't know how game development works and maybe they should research into it, fair enough. Don't go out with an aggressive tone because you're trying to sell a game at the end of the day, and you've not done a great job so fucking far. So,
yeah.
I mean, like, being blunt, like, you know, this isn't our topic of the week or whatever, but, like, Battlefront 2, for all intents and purposes, should be the easiest fucking thing to sell in the world. Like, there's a Star Wars movie out this year. It plays 10 times better than the first. It looks like a fucking painting. Like, there's 4 times the content.
It pushes the hardware.
Right, there's 4 times the content in it, and it's got a single-player story, and still people are like, I'm not sure. That's probably a bad sign, to be honest. So, if your game isn't selling where it needs to be, despite the fact you've put all this effort and money into it, and a community is saying, this is why I'm unsure about it, maybe the way to address that is not to attack them. That's just fucking basics.
Yeah, and, you know, so I sent you the article about this, or the Reddit post. Essentially, apparently it takes like 40 hours to unlock a character. I don't really know what that means in terms of the game.
So, like, the way, I don't know if did you play the beta at all?
No, I didn't.
I mean, like, genuinely, you missed out. It was really fun. The way it works is, like, you play the game, and as you, like, kill people or get achievements or hold the payload or whatever throughout the game, you get, or this is how it works, you got given points, and those points were currency for upgrades within the game. So, like, you could kill 3 people in the first 5 minutes and play as a souped up battle droid, or you could kill 30 people across the whole game and play as a Jedi for the last 10 minutes. Frankly, it was awesome. Like, it made you understand how to play the game better. It made you strive to be a better player on, like, holding the payload and stuff, rather than just outright killing people. It made you team play. It was very smart. They've now moved that to a situation where, rather than credits on an individual game-by-game basis, you pick up credits throughout the life of the game. And then you unlock the ability. I don't know whether it's a single use, although I've got to imagine it is. You unlock a single use of those the more you play. And so the understanding in this is that it takes 40 hours of gameplay to unlock the point at which you're playing a Jedi, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and, like, if that's the kind of stuff that person was responding to, then you have to argue this isn't a developer point of view. This isn't, this isn't anything to do with developing. It's the marketing side, the not the marketing. Like the executive saying, we need to put microtransactions in this. How we're going to sell microtransactions?
Yeah.
Because they didn't have to make the game this way.
No, they absolutely didn't.
And it is. Hopefully, this is kind of a good sign though, because it means that, like, the backlash from this will hopefully actually be seen.
I hope so. I'm really fucking down on this because I wanted to I really wanted to like the new Battlefront games, and the first one is fine. Functional. It doesn't do anything that's too special, but it's a fancy looking Star Wars game, whatever. The new one is, like, genuinely really fucking good. It plays so fantastically. It's such an up on the last game, and it's such a shame that it's business tactics that have got in the way of people playing it rather than the quality of the game. There are some incredibly talented developers and writers and programmers behind this, and they're not going to get the kudos they deserve for making such a good game because EA's business model is going to fuck them.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn.
But we can only hope that it's such a, as I say, it's such like a big disappointment in that sense that they'll have to change the game. They'll change their tactics for the next game. I'm only half hoping. I'm not expecting it to, but I'm hoping that this means that the future will be brighter.
Final piece of news this week. Niantic, the developers of renowned mobile game Pokemon Go, have announced their latest project, which will come out next year. It's called Harry Potter Wizards Unite, and as you'd imagine, it's a Harry Potter game. It's called Harry Potter Wizards Unite, and it's about Lord of the Rings. The main thrust of the game seems to be that you collect certain things. Not entirely sure what those certain things are at the minute. And then you take part in major social battles. So it seems like it's the raid mechanic from Pokemon Go, i.e. a group of people get together and battle a large Pokemon or a large thing in groups in a sort of organised real-world lobby situation. It seems certainly like an interesting step forward. There were a bunch of rumours about what Niantic would be working on next, literally weeks after they released Pokemon Go. A couple of the rumours were this, as well as something about Ghostbusters was rumoured, and a couple of other things as well. My question to you, Lewis, is we've talked on the show about playing Pokemon Go before. You play it, probably not as avidly as myself and Jess, but you do play it. Are you going to play Harry Potter Wizard Unite Go or whatever it's called?
So, potentially. One of the worries, I guess, for your sake, is what this means for Pokemon Go. Because they had a game before this, the name of which escapes me.
Ingress.
Yeah, and that kind of quietened down after Pokemon Go, so it's whether Pokemon Go gets left behind for Harry Potter, which I couldn't see them doing, and I can't really see this being as successful. So it's an interesting move. I understand why they've done it. Speaking about generational gaps to the consoles, it's very much like you can only improve a product so much, and still have the push behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're advertising to a smaller and smaller group of people as time goes on. So there isn't a good way of refreshing that market again. So the only thing that they could do is come after something big and a big enough world, let's say.
A big franchise.
A big enough IP. Yeah, a big enough franchise that it would get enough attention.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there are only a couple of franchises that could work on the same level as Pokemon, because people here in the UK probably think of Pokemon as that show I used to watch, or the games that people still play, which is true in the UK and America. It has a nerd following, but in Japan, it's it's a fucking religion. In Japan, they celebrate National Pikachu Day. Not in a kind of, the movie released on this day. It's just a day dedicated to Pikachu. In Eastern markets, Pokemon is the shit. And so Pokemon Go in the UK and America, it's a cool thing to do. It's a kind of nerdy thing to do. It's got a player base, but not a huge one. But they rake money in from the more Eastern markets. And I would make the argument that Harry Potter is the equivalent here. There aren't, it's a cool thing to do, it's a nerdy thing to do, but it's got an incredibly dedicated fan base. And the people, we don't, celebrate J.K. Rowling or Hermione Day. But when something big happens for Harry Potter, Primark released a range of Harry Potter clothes this year, and there was the internet was on fire for half an hour. And I think this is why it makes a lot of sense for them. Because there are a couple of franchises they could do, but also there are a couple of franchises that don't have the long life of Harry Potter and don't have movies coming out as well. This is something that makes a lot of sense for them, because Harry Potter has an incredible fan base, an incredibly huge fan base, and it's going to have 4 more movies in the next 6 years.
Really? I didn't know that bit.
Yeah, they've turned the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them thing into like 7 movies and.
Of course. um, yeah. I think I'll give it a go. I do wonder whether it's going to be as like groundbreaking, I guess. You have to look at like when Pokemon Go came out, you could go to any park and see like 10 people playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine that's going to happen again.
Oh, I disagree.
We'll see.
No, okay, so hold on. Counterpoint to you here. I agree. I don't think anybody's going to be like, oh, look, there's these 40 people running over a bridge for I don't know.
Try something.
For a basilisk.
Yeah, that works.
That's a Harry Potter thing. Well, I mean, it's a snake thing beforehand, but I don't think people are going to write news reports about that. But when the first raid battle happens for like a Death Eater or whatever, and there's like 150 people in a park, that will be because the raid thing was big for Pokemon Go, but it never got the same headlines. It never quite reached the oh my god, what is this like internet news level. If the Harry Potter mobile game is predicated on the more social aspect of teaming up and working on something, I kind of think it could be a big thing for them.
Yeah. So do you worry about Pokemon Go?
No. And I don't worry about it because I think Ingress still gets developed, and Ingress benefited from Pokemon Go in that there were more people going back to it because they liked the mechanics. There was more money brought into the company, and Niantic gained a great deal of traction. So I don't worry about it. Well,
from what I understand anyway, actually, is that the games are actually they all run on like the same basis. From what I know, like Pokemon Go is like a skin, if you like.
It's more that they use a very similar architecture.
Yeah.
Pokemon Go has some specialisms because there are certain abilities and things tied to the Pokemon franchise. So like there are certain things that certain Pokemon have to do to work. And they haven't introduced all of them, but it's not exactly the same as Ingress. But like Pokemon Go is based on Ingress's portals to Pokestops thing, hubs or whatever they're called, to gyms equivalent, and the Harry Potter game will be based on Pokemon Go's gyms to raids system. So it will be the next kind of evolution of that system. But as a result, like raids are going to get better in Pokemon Go. Exclusive raids will get better. The way that social stuff works will get better, and that's one of the biggest problems with Pokemon Go at the minute. Is like there's occasionally some inconsistencies in the real world stuff. So more development time on that is a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah. Sounds very good. Sounds very fair. I will give it a go, I think. Okay. I think like maybe, I've played a lot of Pokemon Go and got a little bit done with it. Mm-hmm. So maybe this will be the chance for me to kind of pick up something similar.
I probably won't play it, but that's because
you don't know anything about you don't know anything about it, so yeah.
I mean, I probably know more than you think. Like I've been around the studio tour twice, and I have my younger sister is a massive Harry Potter fan, and something's got to have rubbed off, right? Like,
yeah,
I guess.
And I do think that
Voldemort
I think maybe
has
like
no nose, right?
Very true. I do wonder if it's maybe more on point over here as well.
Yeah.
As in like it targets the market a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you're right to say that kind of while Pokemon is obviously still a phenomenon in the same way, it's like its average age is probably a lot higher than Harry Potter. I don't know if you'd agree with that. But I think like
it's an older franchise for sure.
Mm.
Like it was born before Harry Potter was born, even if it's only just. But it was born before Harry Potter was born, so its average age will be like pulled up by the people who have been there since Gen 1. Yeah.
So I think this will target younger people, and like the big proponents of the mobile market. So I think like it'll do well.
I mean,
But
there's also some ways that it's going to make money in like. So one of the big ways that Pokemon Go could have made money this year was Go Fest, but that was kind of a big fucking mess. But like, there will be a Potter Go or Wizarding Unite or whatever fest, and it will probably happen at the Studios Tour, and it will probably make that franchise a fucking bunch of money. And like that will probably feed back into the development. There's probably going to be more merchandise for it, just because Harry Potter is like, it's a merchandised franchise. A bunch of it is there to, well, not there to be merchandised, but like a bunch of it was merchandised right from the beginning with the films. So like that makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah. I tell you what I'm interested in actually is how they're going to play around with AR.
Oh, that is an interesting question.
Like I think Harry Potter's got like a better, it's a better franchise for having stuff, for making use of the AR, in my opinion. Like, I think it depends because I mean, I see you frowning over there. I think like you could do a lot of cool stuff with it. Ultimately, like a Pokemon just will kind of move around. But I mean, like you could have this setup be that you're a wizard and you can throw spells at people, or like things. The equivalent of you throwing a Pokeball becomes like you casting spells and having stuff happen.
Okay, I see what you mean. I think you could make an argument that like they're both as good as each other, because I think you could probably get a Pokemon to do an attack and do the same thing or whatever. Yeah. But like, yeah, I see what you mean. There's something inherently more tangible about like, oh, you cast a frozen spell and now your friend is frozen. Like it'll be the equivalent of like an AR Snapchat filter or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, integrated into the game. I think the thing that interests me will be, in terms of AR, will be the big raid battles, because I think there could be a lot of scope for making the world around you change a bit depending on the battle you're in. So like, maybe your phone screen gets darker depending on what you're battling. Maybe there's like stuff that pops up. Maybe it just
it's kind of what I was saying as well.
Maybe it just plays with the world a little bit more. So you're going to have a go with this. I probably won't, because I don't really want to split my time. Unless by this point I'm like, man, fuck Pokemon Go. But I doubt I'm going to get there. Like, it would be a massive waste of hundreds of hours at this point. But I'd probably not split my time off the two games. But I know a lot of people will get into this.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Quick advice for you: if you do get into this, download the Google Survey app. You can get free money in the game. It's great.
Huh.
Also, if you lie about hotels that you've gone to, you can get lots of free money because they want reviews. There you go.
But we can't promote that, can we?
What? Promote about lying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll absolutely promote about lying. I've lied about hotels all over the damn country. If you can find out which ones I've lied about, good for you. Like, if you've taken the time to listen this far into the episode, you've fucking done enough.
Yeah.
That wraps us up for episode 74 of this week's. Well, the episode this week's. Fuck it. That wraps us up for the show.
Yeah, you've done that well.
Done great, huh? This week's episode 74. Next week's episode 74 will be just as good. It's been a long day. Thank you for joining me, dude.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for joining me. I'm gonna do this joke every week now.
10 out of 10 with podcast again. And thank you, lovely listener, very much for joining us as well. If you enjoyed this show, feel free to subscribe to it. We post every week, Monday at 6:30 p.m. on YouTube, and much, much earlier that day on iTunes, so you can catch it on your way to work. We'd also love it if you chose to like the show so that we could get out in front of a few more people. And we're on every social channel, which is Facebook, Twitter, and those ones. I don't know. We're at Games Upcast on both of those. Go to those. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week for episode 75. Until then, the game's up. Bye.